Welcome back to my series, The Men of Code Red. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. And I am here with Mark. Now, uh, Mark, I'm just gonna jump right in. I'm not even gonna try to act like, I'm not even gonna try to ease into this. I'm so excited to talk to you. And I know that a lot of people are excited to hear from you because as you guys can see from looking at Mark, he is this young, good looking dude. And we don't get a lot. I'm gonna get hateful messages now. I'm not trying to say we don't get a lot of young, good looking dudes. We just don't get a lot of young dudes. And Mark messaged me on Instagram and he was just like, Christy, listen, this is what has happened to me because of Code Red. And I said, Mark, is there any way you'll talk to me and talk to everybody and tell us your story? And he agreed. So Mark, thank you so much for being here with me right now.
Absolutely. Super excited to do it and kind of talk about where I've been and where I'm at now because it's a great story.
So definitely take us back. Paint a picture before Code Red. Start as far back as you want. You think it's what we need to hear in order to definitely paint a picture in all of our minds. Because Mark shared with me things, and I was telling him before I hit the record button, Mark, you shared with me all these details, but I've been hit in the head so much I don't remember exactly. So this is going to be like me hearing it for the first time. And tell us what life was like up until you made the switch.
Yeah. Um, I've never been like super unhealthy or super overweight, but just throughout teenage years and whatnot, wasn't always happy with where I was. And so even being very young, I was always trying to do something. I would see things on social media on how you can lose a couple pounds, or you're supposed to look this way, or you're supposed to feel this way, or whatever. And so I would always go through this cycle of trying something and getting discouraged because it wasn't working. And then that would lead to, just another 5 pounds because it didn't work. And, what was going wrong was continuing to go wrong. And, um, and so that just built up, year over year over year. And then I got to a spot where I was 215 pounds right at the start of quarantine. And I'm looking at quarantine just like everybody else is looking at it, going, hey, like this is not going to be good. It's going to be more than 5 pounds this time just because of the circumstances we're all in, right? And so I had heard about you and Code Red through a family friend and a youth leader growing up. Um, and he had incredible results. His wife did too. Um, like to the point where I would see pictures and I would like just be so impressed and just so blown away with the results they had gotten and how quickly they had gotten them. Um, and, because he's a family friend and somebody that my dad knows well and whatnot, we knew that that's what he had done, even though it wasn't super public on social media and whatnot. And so Code Red was just in the back of my mind as like one of these options I might take eventually, because that's kind of what I always had, was this set list of options of, well, I'll try this next or whatever and see if it works. And so in May, I was thinking in the back of my mind, I'm going to read the Code Red book. And so I found it. I listened to it audiobook, which I would highly recommend since you read it yourself, which is super motivating. And I felt like I knew you at the end. So um, it was great. And for the first time, I was like, I feel like I really know exactly what to do every single day. I know what the rules are, and the responsibility is on me now. Like I just have to follow the rules. And so I did. And that's literally what I've been doing since then. And 60 pounds have just melted off in 6 months.
So how did you get to be 215? How'd you get fat?
Yeah, I really think that it's just that slow cycle, just being unhappy with the way that I was, trying something, having it not work, and then just giving up again and kind of throwing my hands up like, oh, well, I guess this is just never going to work. Or um, I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it's gone around before. There's like a little picture that you'll see on social media sometimes. It's like a big paragraph, and it's basically just all of the contradictions that you hear in the health and diet world of, you need to be eating this, no, you shouldn't be eating that, you need to be doing this amount of exercise. Oh no, too much exercise is bad. And just back and forth and back and forth. That was really how I felt. Um, and I would keep doing that back and forth, which I think is what the industry wants you to do because it gets you fat.
Mhm.
And then they've got you for your whole life. But I read your book and that took me out of the cage.
So were you eating fast food? Were you drinking? Were you eating sugar? What was it? Any kind of sadness or anything? Kind of just this whole cycle. I know that sugar hijacks our brain, but not everybody is, a sugar like sugar. They'd rather have pasta or something. How was it that were you just kind of falling into this trap of fast food?
Yeah, a little bit. That was probably a little bit easier to do after going out like to college and getting married and that kind of thing. But for the most part, like I wasn't like absolutely eating like super, super, super unhealthy, but it wasn't healthy. And that day over day, month over month doesn't lead you to a great place. And the worse off you get, the more disheartened you get, and then the more emotions can start to play into it and make it even worse. So yeah.
What were your emotions doing when you were at your heaviest? What were you battling with in your mind and and your confidence?
I think it's always this conversation in your mind of, is this okay, and trying to tell yourself that it's okay because you don't know any other way out of it except to tell yourself that it's okay. And I was just thinking last night that one of the ways that happens most naturally, I think, is to keep telling yourself, well, I'm only like 20 pounds over or whatever. Like, I'm not 60 or 75 pounds over. It's only like 20, because in your mind, 20 is like a lot. Like, I've never been able to lose 20 pounds doing anything else. And so, it's probably just 20 pounds. If I could get to 195 or 190, like I'd be in good shape. And I was thinking about that because it kind of comes back to what you say in the book of your goal weight is almost always too high. And that's definitely been my experience. So I think just kind of rationalizing what the number is that you're seeing, as well as just trying to see it as infrequently as you possibly can, by not weighing yourself very often.
Yeah, ignoring it. What were you taught wrong? I know you're a fairly young guy, so you're in school now, you're in college, and you're working on, and so what were you taught in high school or leading up to this point, or maybe some basic nutrition classes in college that were wrong? Because you would think, well, the government's got my back and they'll teach us the right way. And clearly, I mean, you were taught wrong, or you would never have gotten to be
Yeah.
215.
Yeah, it's funny you ask because I was just talking to my wife about this the other day. She works at a elementary school here locally, and she was talking about how they were talking about I don't know what it's called, but the food pyramid and how it's kind of evolved. And she was explaining what that is these days. And growing up for me, and I think a lot of other people, it was just the food pyramid. And I was laughing because I was remembering that bread was at the bottom and it's the biggest section, and then there's like dairy and cheese and that kind of thing, and stuff now that I know is no good if you're trying to lose weight, especially. And so I was kind of wondering, what that kind of thing early on might have taught a lot of people about the way to eat, because that's something coming from the government, this big institution that like you feel like inclined to believe, um, and nobody ever tells you that they've changed their mind. And so there's probably things like that are deep rooted in a lot of people. I mean, I'm 24 years old and that's what I was learning. So I mean, there's a lot of people who are just right around 20 years old that's what they were learning. And so that gets so confusing and creates the frustration when you're trying to lose weight because you hear about all of these contradicting things.
So you lost 60 pounds just by reading the Code Red Revolution book, which is absolutely it's one of my favorite things to hear. I know I can get people off with the weight off people with the challenge and weight off people with the custom program, but you did this just from the information in the book. So when you what was the biggest thing you noticed other than the scale going down that was changing as you were changing your diet?
I think the biggest thing and probably the harder thing, which I'm grateful is the harder thing to work on through the process, is to change your relationship with food. Because if you follow the rules, the weight's going to come off. But if through the whole process, all you think about every day is, as soon as I hit my goal weight, I'm going to get that favorite ice cream again, or I'm going to go grab that or this or whatever, then as soon as the rules go away, or as soon as you go into maintenance mode and things are a little bit less strict, then I mean, you really have to have that relationship with food changed. Otherwise, you might just find yourself back in the same spot. And so I think that's actually one of the beauties of the whole maintenance mode concept, is that this is a very long process. It's a lifelong process. It's a lifestyle rather than a diet of changing your relationship with food, even beyond just getting the pounds off. So I would say that's the second biggest and probably my favorite thing overall of what's changing. Of, you know, you talk in the book about rewarding yourself. I think it's every 20 or 30 pounds with get a different outfit that fits better, that you look good and feel good in, and reward yourself with that feeling rather than with the sugar high in your brain.
Hmm. Absolutely. Did you know you weren't sick at all before? Maybe that's the direction you were you would have been heading if you had not have nipped this in the bud. So it's not like you had, you know, loads of medication that you got off or anything like that. But you just started feeling better with the 60 pounds off. You know, did you, I don't know, did you notice your like less brain fog or more energy or higher confidence?
Yeah, definitely. And I mentioned to you in my post last Sunday that there were a couple of times in there where, you know, like a birthday or something would come up, and then I'd have like the slice of cake or whatever during the process. And I feel like that's an important message to get across too, because I was telling my wife last night that you don't have to be absolutely perfect. You want to be through the whole process, but part of that changing your relationship with food is making sure you're just trending in the right direction as well. And I say that because during those, you know, that moment where I cheated or whatever, I didn't sleep as well that night. Or the next morning, it was harder to get out of bed and like get going on my homework. Or I would find myself confused with what the professor is talking about, or, um, you know, that kind of thing, where like that stuff is real. And that's a huge benefit as well, that like, even, you know, when you get into maintenance mode and it's the whole 90-10 rule, when you do that 10% or whatever, on that one day, or, you know, that one meal, like you feel it that night and the next day, because it's very real, because the detox has actually in reality happened. This isn't all just some kind of joke or, um, you know, ploy or anything. Like, it's real. It actually happens in your body and you can actually feel it. And so it makes you not want to cheat, because it just doesn't feel good. It might feel good in the moment, but I mean, you got a whole day to put up with of becoming more inflamed and gaining some weight back. And, you know, it's just terrible. You don't really want to do it that much anymore.
So you are married. How long have you been married?
Just a little over 2 years.
Okay, fairly new. So even though this is your soulmate, this is somebody you love through thick and thin. Obviously, she loved you through 60 pounds heavier and all that stuff. That's not even an issue. Has this changed your relationship at all with your wife?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like you mentioned, she's always been so supportive and uh, really loves me for who I am and whatnot, which is awesome. You know, I couldn't ask for anybody better. Um, but, you know, I feel like the biggest thing is that it sends a message to her that I am respecting myself, which is a huge, huge signal, I think, to her that I also respect her. And so, yeah, I just think that's a really great benefit as well of, you know, if I'm literally proving through my health that I don't respect myself, how could I be respecting anybody else? And so that's a great change as well, to kind of show that through my actions more than my words. I think it also has made me more positive as well, because before, she got to be the one who was always hearing, oh, I'm not happy with how I look or feel, or I'm too fat, or this or that or whatever. And now that's all totally changed.
Why do you think men? Why do you think men are sometimes afraid to do code red, or sometimes afraid to, I mean, I'm thinking steak and asparagus, eggs and bacon. Why would a man not? But from your perspective, why is there hesitation? 93% of our clients are women. We don't have very many men. I don't get that. Do you have an opinion on that?
Um, I think it probably stems back from the industry, and how the whole diet industry, like, most of their guns are pointed straight at women. And I think that men might feel the same way, just as often, just like I think that younger people feel the same way, as somebody who's 45 or whatever. Um, it's just where the industry has their targets.
Mhm.
And I think that men are more often comfortable, or can more easily um, explain away the reason that they're bigger, or all their friends look the same, or you know there's men in movies that have a gut, whereas I don't know of any women in movies that have a gut, really. It's much less frequent. And so it's just all the messaging, and then just the dynamic of going through your life as a woman versus a man, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't have said that better myself. So what would you say to a guy who is who needs to take his life back at any age, and needs to grab that audiobook, or grab the Code Red Revolution book out of Barnes and Noble or Amazon or wherever the heck books are sold? What would you say if someone's on the fence, a dude that's on the fence and hesitating on giving it a try?
Well, I think just knowing you, seeing any of your content, hearing your voice and how you speak and how you wrote the book, like, you get the impression, I got the impression that you are going to push past all of that bull crap that the world has circulating around. You're not going to make your money the same way everyone else in the fitness world is going to make their money. And I really respect that. You break it down, you give the reality of the rules, so that you can actually go be finished with this goal once and for all, rather than being wrapped up in it. So personally, as far as Code Red goes and whatnot, I think you are the key. And knowing you and who you are and your personality is super helpful. It was for me. And so I guess just, you got to tell yourself the time is now. This is the thing that's finally real, that's come into my life. If you're a person that's watching this video who knows someone who has done it, I mean, you can't deny the results that people get when they just simply follow the rules. And if you have really been desperate to lose weight all this time, just get in there and do it. Like, it really does work. This isn't just a magazine cover fad of, oh, the keto diet, you can lose 10 pounds in 3 days or whatever. Like, that's just water weight. Like, it's just something to get people's attention. This is real. You can get in this for 6 or 8 months or a year and be done and maintain and be healthy the rest of your life. That's exciting. So
Yeah, man. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Mark, for coming on here and sharing your heart with us. I mean, this is so good from a whole different perspective. We've never heard an angle like this before, and it absolutely means so much to all of us. So I appreciate it, guys. 10poundtakedown.com is where to go to join the next challenge, or get the Code Red Revolution book. It's sold at bookstores. Go to coderedrevolution.com, go to Amazon. Guys, get started somehow. You don't have to live like this. Thank you again, Mark, so very much for being on here.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's been super fun.
Bye, everybody.